I just want you guys to know that every week when I make these slides, I spend at least 15 minutes looking for good vocab pictures, so you should appreciate those. Okay, announcements. So this Friday is Red Team Workshop, and Gayton, who is an alum of Cal Poly, used to be VP of Swift, and is now an all-around security awesome person, is going to be doing a 4-hour workshop on Metasploit and Meterpreter. So that's this Friday at 6. If you want to go RSVP, there is only 5 slots left. Yes.
It says 4.
You have to send me an email. You can't do that. I will forget. You can RSVP to me now, but it doesn't count. So yeah, if you want to do that, send me an email, and I'll put you on the list. If for whatever reason we do run out of slots, then I will put you on a waiting list, and I'll let you know. So hurry up. Those of you with smartphones in the meeting can RSVP faster, so I guess that's an advantage. Other announcements. Most likely we'll be doing e-board elections next week, so if you're interested in that, please come. Also, we're going to be doing shirts, so if you want a Swift shirt, send me an email. Hopefully they're going to be around 15, so if a bunch of you send me emails, they go down in price. Hint, hint. Yeah, dude, well, we're actually redesigning them because we have to take the IEEE off. So
You're not going to have wood?
Oh, we'll do these. Actually, yeah, that's a good point. If any of you want a polo like this, we are probably going to be doing that. So what you get is you get the pound Swift and then your nick. So send me an email stating whether you want a t-shirt or a polo. The polos will be more, but not a lot.
You used to have to earn the polo. Now you can just pay for
Yeah, that's earning it.
it.
It's like everything else today, you can buy it.
So just wanted to give a shout out to the Cal Poly CCDC team. They went to nationals over this past weekend, and they worked really hard. And I just wanted to give them a round of applause for doing super hard. It's a lot of effort, and they've been practicing all year for that. So, yeah, and I found the logo. I thought that was kind of cool. And with that, we have JBest. So JBest used to be president of Swift. He was also on CCDC. What role did you play?
Linux team lead.
Okay, so he was Linux team lead. He also coached for 2 years, right? And then out of school, he got hired by Boeing, and now he is self-employed under iNode. So I'll let him take it away.
Thank you very much. Get it in. Doesn't work. Oh, Control L, of course. That's full screen.
That makes sense.
So, hello everybody. I'm getting over a cold. Can you guys hear me okay? All right, awesome. I'm JBest, founder. What title did I give myself? Digital Forensic Consultant at iNode Forensics LLC. This is my talk on digital forensics. Zach gave me a pretty good introduction. I'm Cal Poly alumni from 2009. I was Swift eBoard from 2006 through 2009, being president from 2007 to 2008. I'm an IRC channel operator, which many of you have probably found out by now. On CCDC, I was on the Linux team in 2008. I was Linux team lead in 2009. I coached from 2010 to 2011. Into nationals. The last 3 years I was involved with the blue team, and I was black team this last year. ITC, I was on the forensics team for 3 years, the captain for the last 2. I'm the only person to place first in 3 consecutive years in ITC. But that might go away next year when San Bernardino takes forensics for the 3rd time. What else have I done? I was employed at 42 LLC before they kind of went defunct for approximately 3.5 years. I did consulting while I was at Boeing on the side with them. I built out the initial infrastructure that Davey fixed because I didn't do it very well. And I consulted on advanced topics like Wiretap Act violations and some Linux stuff. At Boeing, I did a bunch of stuff that sounds very businessy, that's not very important. And then at iNode, I've been founder for officially 1 day. Through yesterday, so awesome. I don't have any certs. Digital forensics. Digital forensics is composed of 2 parts. Digital, which if you don't understand digital, there's a missed meeting on Thursday. Forensics, U.S. legal defines forensics as an application of science to the law, which is awesome, because I can do science all day too. The courts recognize that it is a science, and you can't just kind of make something up and have it be admissible in court. So there are a bunch of different standards that have evolved over the years. The first being the Fry standard, which was then deemed to not jive with the federal rules of evidence. And then the JBest standard has become the de facto standard for missing stuff in the court of law. JBest is pretty awesome. This is my densest slide, but if you can get through this, then you'll know way more than anybody about digital forensics. So there are pretty much 5 things that you need to know about digital forensics. Those are the only 5 things you really absolutely have to know. For anything you do as a forensics expert to be admissible in court, you have to do 5 things. You have to produce results that are testable. You have to produce results that have been subjected, or you have to use techniques that have been subjected to peer review and publication. You have to use techniques that are well understood and have a known error rate. Even if the known error rate is 0, you still have to know it. Have some sort of best practice or other guiding standard concerning your technique, and enjoy general acceptance in the relevant scientific community. So if you're investigating a car crash, say somebody got hit by a bus, you could apply all these 5 things. It doesn't just apply to digital forensics, it's any forensics. So you have to be able to say, oh yeah, well this guy got hit by a bus going 40 miles an hour. And I can test that by seeing how far he flew. Because I use Newtonian physics to determine the momentum that was carried, or that was incurred by him after he got hit by the bus. So that satisfies number 1. Number 2, subjected to peer review. Newtonian physics has been subjected to peer review for over 400 years. That satisfies that requirement. Be well understood. It's taught in colleges. I've taken classes on it. Everybody knows what Newtonian physics is. Have a known error rate. Newtonian physics is not quite as precise as Einsteinian physics, but it got us to the moon, so that's pretty good. Some sort of best practice or guiding standard. That's pretty much a given. Physics is standardized pretty well. And enjoy general acceptance. Once again, it got us to the moon, so that's good enough, really. As long as you can follow those 5, anything you do as a forensics expert will be admissible in court and defensible. This is really fucking important. As long as you stick to it, you're good. And as long as you document all of that in your report, you're good. The most important thing you do as a forensics expert is write a report. That's it. Client pays you money, you do all your investigation. It doesn't mean shit if you don't document it. And the document doesn't mean shit unless you cover your methodology and what you found through that methodology. Nothing else matters. In fact, everything else that you throw in the report is probably detrimental to your report. That is all you have to do. That's really fucking important. So listen to the dinosaur. Which is really cool, because that means everyone in this room can do digital forensics if you practice. There's no degree required, no license required, no certification, no specific software, no vendor training. All you have to do is practice and just find out more, learn how to do it. So how do you do that? There are 3 basic things you need to know to get started. You need to know chain of custody, which is really important. You get evidence, you have to keep track of it. You have to know who's touched it before, who touches it after you, and keep a log of all of that to ensure the validity of the evidence. You need to know how to acquire evidence, how you get a hard drive, produce a forensic image of it, and have that be admissible in court. And you need to know some tools, some way of investigating the evidence. So there are free tools like Autopsy and Sleuth Kit. You have a really awesome lab on the 3rd floor of this building that's available to you guys if you ask people like Carlin or Carlton very nicely, or even Manson. They'll give you access to it. If you don't already know Carlin or Manson, get to know them because they're your best friends as far as getting access to stuff like that. Even if you don't like forensics, they know a lot about this department. It can give you a lot of access to a lot of cool things. Other things, the HoneyNet Forensics Challenge, they have a lot of really cool and really simple forensics challenges for you to try to get familiar with all these tools. Just download images. They have solutions posted too, which is pretty awesome, so you can check your work. ITC, they changed the format from, it used to be you had 3 hours. They gave you an image and you had to investigate it and write a report, which was a total pain in the ass. Then they gave you 2 hours, which was an even bigger pain in the ass. Now they give you an image, you have 2 weeks to go over it. It's like the rest of the ITC cases. You get to spend some time on it, which I think is a lot better because it's a lot more realistic. Except the one that they did, I think last year. They gave him a thumb drive and said, we're going to go walk into this guy's apartment and seize a bunch of his stuff. What else can you determine off of this thumb drive that we have that we need to get a search warrant for? That was pretty cool. But yeah, this last year they changed the format. CIS 481, even if you're not a CIS major and you want to sit in on it, that's where you make friends with Carlin and Manson to try to just get more information about it. It covers way more than I can cover today. They go over a lot of the legal stuff, which is super handy, and a lot of the procedural stuff. If you take the class, at the end of it, you'll write a report. They'll interview you like they are the prosecution, and you're defending your, or like they're the defense, and you're defending your report, which is pretty nice. Conference talks. This talk, I'll write down the link to this presentation so you can check out this YouTube video. This guy, he goes by Int80, and he does a lot of anti-forensics, or at least he gave a talk on anti-forensics. So it's kind of cool to know what people are doing against you to try to defend against forensics, so you can learn how to investigate better. Investigating your own computer is a great way to get started because you know what's already there. Don't investigate someone you know's computer because you'll find out way more than you want to know about them. It's just not, you can't unsee what you've seen. But investigating your own computer is a really great way to get started because you'll know what you need to be looking for. You just have to figure out how to find it. And then finally, DC3. It's an international competition put on by the Department of Defense, I believe. And they got really cool, fancy prizes. You can have teams of up to 8 people, I think. Pretty nice. That's it. I wanted to make this presentation kind of short because I could talk for days, but I'd rather hear your questions and have a discussion about it. Any questions? What's up?
What do you prefer, NK, FTK?
I like X-Ways. Yeah, X-Ways is another product much like Encase or FTK. The developer is on it. Like every week he's posting a new update or a bug fix or an improvement. I like the way it works a lot better. It just seems more stable. Encase 7, I don't really like it at all. 6 was okay, but 7's terrible.
What would you say the most nerve-wracking thing you've ever had to do before?
Nerve-wracking thing. I had a case recently that involved a Zen virtual machine on a hosting provider. So this company had a VPS where they bought a virtual private server on this Zen hypervisor machine. So if you guys familiar with the concept, it's like ESX, a VM running in that. Except in Zen virtual machines, you don't have a dedicated virtual disk like you do in VMware. It's more like a BSD jail concept where the files get remapped to a virtual file system inside of the virtual machine. So there's no disk. I can't take an image of a disk. I talked to the guys at the hosting company, and they said, we will not give you a virtual image of this machine because it does not exist. Which is kind of a real pain in the ass for me because that's what I work with. I take a virtual image or some sort of image of a machine, I analyze it, figure out what happened, and then write a report. I can't do that in that case. So what I had to do was I ended up just rsynching the entire file system down, which was a pain in the ass, but it worked. I created a logical file collection using FTK Imager and said that is my image, and then I investigated wasn't necessarily nerve-wracking, it was more of a pain in the ass and something new, something that they don't teach in classrooms. There isn't really a whole lot of media about forensics on. So that was kind of interesting.
How did you establish the validity of the image?
So rsync does a checksum in transit, so it'll checksum the source, checksum the destination, make sure everything jives, and I just stored the log off of that.
So for someone like me who encrypts all their hard drives, uses SSL, Tor, and other sorts of devices like that, are there any other mechanisms for thwarting forensics that?
There's definitely plenty of mechanisms for thwarting forensics. So you could encrypt your hard drive and then not give me the password, and that has recently been validated by an appeals court, I think, as a valid defense. That's pleading the fifth, because you know something that could incriminate you that you're not giving up. It's like having a combination to a lock, is what they analogize it to. Because you know that combination, if you give that up, you are incriminating yourself. So you're not obligated to give up the password for an encrypted log, which didn't used to be the case, and is not in the UK. In the UK, you can be imprisoned or no. I think someone was imprisoned for obstruction of justice, but they couldn't get him for child pornography because they didn't give the password. So yeah, it works differently in different jurisdictions, but right now, currently in the U.S., if you encrypt your hard drive and use a strong enough password where I can't crack it, you're pretty good, honestly.
Thanks.
There are a number of other things that you can do, like using a live CD. There's not going to be a trace of anything unless I get a PCAP between whatever desktop, laptop you're using and whatever you're attacking. Then I'm not going to be able to find anything. Or if you're just pulling data off a hard drive and boot off a live CD, stick in the thumb drive, mount the local drive, copy things over, I won't be able to figure that out. Except for maybe the modified timestamps on the files that I suspect that you took. There's plenty of ways to defeat it. I catch the dumb people.
That makes me feel safer.
The cool thing is there's plenty of dumb people. Most criminals aren't as smart as they think they are. Anyone else? Yeah.
Have there been any technological changes that are going to pose issues for you?
Yes. Yes, absolutely. Solid state hard drives, fucking bitches. So traditional hard drives, you've got your platter, you've got your data, you delete the data, it just deletes the pointer to the data. It doesn't actually go in and wipe anything. All the things that you ever deleted and emptied your recycle bin, your safe, no, I can find all of that. As long as it hasn't been overwritten by something else. Solid state hard drives, on the other hand, they overwrite each of the unallocated spaces with zeros. So as long as the drive is powered on, it's doing its cleanup routine and erasing data that I want, which sucks. So which also means that if I acquire a solid state hard drive, and then acquire it again immediately afterwards, the checksum is going to not match. The MD5, the SHA-1, whatever I do is not going to match between the first time and the second time, because things are constantly getting wiped off of that drive. So that is a royal pain in the ass currently.
So what do you do to get around that?
I just deal with it. It's a known thing that everybody just has to accept. So whoever takes the image has to do it as quickly as possible, get as much data as possible, and then just leave it powered off somewhere. So that's the best you can do. And that happens a lot. A lot of the time you can't do it by the book, the way guidance software says, the way your forensics instructor says. You just have to make the best effort and document everything you did that was outside of, or document everything you did, period. So when you go into court and somebody says, well, why didn't you do it the right way? You can say, these are the things I ran into. I did the best effort, I documented it all properly, and that's all I got.
Yeah, so like if you want to delete all the data off a hard drive, isn't there some like standard that you need to like zero it like 30 times or something?
So there's a lot of,
That's the Gutman cast.
Yeah, there's
32.
32.
so 35. So Gutman is crazy paranoid motherfucker from New Zealand. He determined that to completely irreversibly wipe data from a hard drive, you need to go over it 35 times with specific patterns of data on a hard drive. I don't care about that. If you go over it once, I'm not going to find it because I don't want to turn it over to someone else and pay them $50,000 to recover. I just don't care. And most of my clients don't care. Unless you're going up against a foreign government or something, one pass of zeros is good enough to ruin my day. That's really all you need to do. If you are going up against a foreign government, like the DoD, which is why they have the DoD 3-pass and 7-pass, then you need to be a little more careful. The DoD, they have two different standards depending on what kind of media, what kind of sensitivity they're working with, either 3-pass or 7-pass. Usually they just do 7-pass anyway. It's better safe than dead. Anyone else? Yeah.
A lot of us aren't going to be heavily in forensics, but doing more of the system administration and instant response work. What kind of tips would you give to us to make sure that we preserve evidence when we're responding to an incident?
I love sysadmins that are concerned about forensics because sysadmins that aren't concerned about forensics are the kind of people that try to go in, remediate the problem, stomp all over evidence that would otherwise be admissible in court, don't know to pick up the phone and call me first, or some sort of other person who does incident response work. So that's a really, really good question. What you want to do is try to avoid changing stuff on a disk. If your business is on the line and you need to get that box up, by all means, go ahead and try to get that box back up, or try to get the intruder out. But log everything you do. Make sure you keep track of, if you can save binaries, if you can save things, just artifacts that an intruder has left behind. Store all that off. Document where you got it. Document how you stored it, what time everything happened. So I can go in and sort of reconstruct the timeline and say to a courtroom, this is what happened. Because that's what I need. That's the information I need. Things not to do. Don't turn over a laptop to your local PC repair guy for them to investigate because they're going to boot it up. There was a case I worked where this company had 2 laptops from people that they suspected some wrongdoing of. They turned them over to the local PC repair guy, and the PC repair guy said, "Oh yeah, I'll figure out what happened." What does he do? He boots it up. He starts poking around the file system. No, you don't want to boot up the computer ever if it's powered on. I want to take an image of the hard drive and work from that. I want to copy it, leave the original one. So now I have to go back in and figure out exactly not only what the suspected people did, but what everybody did afterwards, and make sure that they didn't plant evidence, just verify that. It makes my life a whole lot worse, or a whole lot more difficult, and it makes the client have to pay a lot more.
I've been taught from SAMs that, this is an extreme case, is they suggest you take the original hard drives out of the box, duplicate them, put them into a safe, lock it with only one person with a key, and then use the duplicated hard drives to put back in to protect.
If you can, that would be ideal. But a lot of the time, a business can't take their one web server offline for 4 hours to make that copy.
What about virtual machines?
Virtual machines?
Exporting a copy of running VM.
Yeah, if you can take a snapshot of it, that'd be awesome. I'd love that. That's the cool part about virtual machines. They're a lot easier to work with in that respect. A lot easier to copy out. There's anything that I can work with that can stay static like that. So be it a copy of a hard drive or a copy of a VM or a snapshot of a VM. Anything like that with known good time date stamps that no one else has access to. So you can save that off, put it in a safe that only you have access to, and you can log access to after that. That's important for chain of custody, knowing who had access to it. That's a really good thing.
How often do you lift?
If you write your reports right, you don't have to go testify in court. That's really what it boils down to. Because the opposing side is going to read your report, say, this guy's better than our expert, we don't want to put him on a stand. That's your goal. If there's something that you put in there saying, oh, well, I suspect, or John Doe did this on the computer. That's a huge red flag because you don't know who was at the keyboard at that time. Unless in their deposition that you ask them, did anyone else have access to your computer ever? And they say no. Then you can place them at the keyboard because they just admitted that they were at the keyboard the entire time. No one else is using the computer. But unless there's a case like that, you don't want to implicate a specific person. You just say the user. So, and the lawyers know this. They'll try to use everything that is in your report against you to put you on the stand and then just try you. And you don't want that to happen. So if you can write your report properly, you won't have to show up because the other side will be scared. But that said, everything that I do is intended to go into a court. Everything I produce, everything that I write down in the course of a case could end up in a court. And that matters. If you write something down, you know, these are my notes, this guy seems like a dick, and then you just keep going, you know, writing down all your notes. You saying this guy seems like a dick could end up in a court. And that reflects poorly on you because you just made a judgment call on that guy outside of the evidence. You're just, you know, a personal attack on him. So now it's a witch hunt. And now you're getting fried on the stand.
Basically, it's the word shopping.
Right.
Have you ever had a moment where you actually were sitting in court testifying for yourself?
I've never testified.
What's the most horrible, not safe for life thing you've had to deal with in forensics?
Lesbian porn. Not good lesbian porn.
Oh.
Really bad.
Oh.
Yeah, the gay porn I can deal with. That, the lesbian. There were a couple cases, and this is the shitty part about forensics, is you get dragged into child pornography cases, you get exposed to that sort of stuff. Fortunately, I haven't had to deal with any of that stuff yet. The cool part about forensics is you get to put the fuckers that do that behind bars. Fuck them. Bad part is you get to see the true scum of society. You have to be able to reconcile.
I've heard,
Oh, sorry.
heard stories about like government-sponsored malware, where like let's say you got a guy over here like Mendez, you know his stuff's all locked down.
Good job.
I'm trying to
Yeah,
plant
Mendez is my
nightmares.
favorite FBI agent.
So, have you heard of them issuing warrants for like a hack against a suspected, you know, criminal of some sort, like Mendez?
Show me, man.
So, like, I mean, is it, because you know he's going to have his stuff encrypted, if you can get like a piece of malware in the system to log his keystrokes and get his encryption keys, something like that.
Gotcha. That's where it gets tricky. If you know or suspect that somebody does encrypt all their stuff, there are ways around it. Like, if you get really fancy, you can freeze the RAM in a system, power the system off, pop it into a system that you know functions a certain way, and then dump the RAM as it is. Because you froze, because if you super cool RAM, the electricity doesn't discharge quite as quickly, so you can recover about 80%, which is sometimes good enough to get the encryption key off of that RAM. Hang on. But you have to know going in that you're going to be able to, that you're going to deal with that sort of thing. Because typically, you go on a raid, you walk into a room, there's a couple of computers, you pull the plugs on. You might bump a desk and say, oh shit, I can look at the screen now because the screensaver deactivated. You're not supposed to do that. It happens. But because you're supposed to leave the computer in the state it's in. But some people might accidentally, you know. You take pictures of everything, including what's on the screen, if applicable. And if you suspect an intruder or an adversary of encrypting things, then you get into memory forensics. And a lot of the time, people now are trying to do memory forensics if they can, period, because there's a lot of good data in it.
So no specific like court authorized malware that the FBI can deploy to Mendez's computer?
Not that I know of without invoking the Patriot Act. And even that's kind of hearsay from people who may or may not be reliable.
If I encrypt my RAM, how worried should I be of a cold? Because it is. I'm just
Next
curious.
question.
So as a, what would employers look for in a resident if you wanted to get into digital forensics?
So if you want to get into forensics, doing things like ITC, proving yourself among your peers in some sort of competition environment is always helpful. Taking classes is always helpful because a person who's taken a forensics class has, if there was, how did someone put it? Annie Spool, one of the judges for ITC one year, said if everybody who went through a forensics class got a job in forensics, it would not be enough to fulfill all the positions available in forensics. Which might be a stretch, but it's not far from the truth. So taking a class puts you in front of everybody else who wants to get into forensics. Practicing.
What exactly, as you're describing all these things and situations, what exactly do you do on a daily basis for your job?
I take images of hard drives that I've collected, acquired from clients who said, I suspect this guy of stealing company secrets, I suspect that this guy murdered the other guy, but we have no evidence that this guy's dead even, so we need to prove that he's dead and then prove that this guy killed the other guy. We suspect a wiretap act violation from company X against this person, so can you provide any evidence based on what I have here? And I just sit and analyze all that stuff and write reports. That's really what I do. Sit in my underwear and hang out.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Is there anything you can do to like physically reconstruct a hard drive? I mean, if I take a hammer to my hard drive.
If you take a large magnet.
It depends on what you did. If you stole nuclear secrets, absolutely. If you hack somebody's email, I'm not going to spend the money to reconstruct your hard drive. It's a matter of how much money someone is willing to throw away. That's really what it boils down to.
Either way, because you can spend $50K having a hard drive destroyed.
Well, you could, then you'd be stupid.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
But for the high level stuff like that, they'll melt it down in a furnace for you.
Yeah, but you just buy it from Amazon. Call it a day.
And throw it overboard.
Throwing it in the ocean isn't really good. I would use thermite before throwing it in the ocean.
It's more fun.
If I do find it, then it's intact.
Yeah. Then do both.
Thermite then ocean.
I don't care if somebody finds it if I stick a thermite on.
Then you can throw it
How does an
in.
oxygen supply you can thermite it underwater?
Yeah, you could thermite it on the way down. So you use thermite for underwater wells.
So wait, I take a giant industrial grade magnet and just do a couple passes, can you recover it?
These are my favorite. Yes. If you take a rare earth magnet and slap it on top of a hard drive, it will do jack shit, typically. You have to either degauss it, or overwrite all the data, or take sandpaper to the platters and just grind it down. You have to really fuck with the hard drive.
So how do you degauss it?
You buy a very expensive machine to degauss it with. Or you give it to someone who has a degausser and pay them a lot of money.
When you acquire evidence, you videotape yourself doing it?
No, I record what I do. There are very few circumstances where you have to record yourself taking an image of a hard drive. One of them being, if you have a phone that you can't acquire with a Celebrite or Paraben, any of the other tools that you typically use to acquire a cell phone, you have to actually power it on and look through the phone. You have to record the whole thing. So no one can go back and say, well, you tampered with it, you added this. You just want to be able to cover your ass in that case. That's the only case I can think of where you'd actually get to do that.
Do you usually work on criminal cases or have you worked on civil cases?
I work on both. That's another thing, is if you join a society like HTCIA, you're limiting yourself to only working on prosecution because HTCIA loves cops, which is cool. They can love cops, but I feel personally that there's an inherent conflict of interest in joining an association like that because you're only working for the prosecution. You're saying that nobody wants to defend themselves with digital evidence, which inherently puts you in a bit of a bias. Nobody can be defended by digital evidence. It doesn't make any sense. We got plenty of time. Yeah.
Have you ever actually worked on the defensive side from the case?
Not directly. I think I just picked up some evidence to be used on the defense today for somebody, but I'm not. It was just to pick up from somebody else. Yeah.
Someone removed the Etsy directory from the root
He's not even here in your ass.
What I would do, if it was on a VM that you couldn't otherwise physically access, is that the situation? Yeah? Okay. This sounds like something that happened maybe just a couple days ago.
No, maybe it did.
What I would have done in that case is somehow got like an Arch ISO, put it up on the data store, booted the VM with the ISO.
But we couldn't do that.
We could do that.
Why did we do that?
Because we didn't have admin rights.
Not to
You never
the
had
data
rights?
server, no.
You couldn't upload anything to the data store?
Nope.
Couldn't do anything.
You're telling me.
It didn't go into a crash show?
Nope.
At the top, because I would have backed up Etsy and then not deleted
Well,
the
that's
original.
that's what's supposed to be happening.
That's a little small. I don't know what to tell you. Kinda fucked it.
Do you work more now that you work for yourself or before when you worked for someone?
Yeah, I definitely work more now.
Does that mean you wake up?
Sometimes. I woke up at 6 today.
Hi.
Oh.
Yeah, so I was in Palm Springs today. Yeah, it wasn't glorious. It really wasn't. I saw the inside of a police department and left. But yeah, I definitely work a lot more now that I work for myself. That's just part of the territory. I'm my own boss. I'm an accountant. I'm my own travel agent, secretary, everything. So there's a lot more work. Pays a lot better. It's a lot more fun. It's a lot more rewarding. Yeah.
I was working at Boeing, honestly. Would you recommend that I got a job there?
Ask me after I'm being recorded.
Drop the camera.
Anyone else? Well, thank you all for having me. I hope you enjoyed the pizza. I hope you enjoyed the talk.